welcome to the Metapod podcast, the Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. Another week, another series of regionals, but also some interesting collectors things that I think a lot of people are interested. But first, Sean, how has your last week been?
It's been chill. It's been good. I haven't really done anything. That's it.
You didn't see, but so I put on Twitter, Sean. You probably didn't see this because you actually deleted Twitter.
I did.
While the Arlington Championships were going on before it started, I did the typical what we've done of, if this deck wins, this deck wins, we'll bring a lucky person on the podcast. And so I did Zorobox this time around. It was like Zorobox wins Arlington, lucky person gets to be a guest. And it turns out that for round 8, there was a Zorobox player, Eric Smith. He was 5-1-1 at the time, so he's doing like really, really well.
Wait, is this Rare Candy Eric? Because that is his name.
I don't know if that's to be honest, I don't know Rare Candy Eric's last name. I believe his first name is Eric, right?
It is, yes.
Either way, Eric Smith on the stream, and I saw it because I was watching. I watched a majority of the event. I worked during some of it, but I watched a lot of it. And so I was like, you know what? I've got these Silver Tempest codes lying around. I was like, if Eric Smith wins this round, we're going to give someone 20 Silver Tempest codes. And there was a lot of Twitter interactions through that. And then he won, and I gave away codes. And so thank you to everyone who is tuning into this podcast maybe for the first time because of that shenanigan tweet. I do those tweets just about every regional, but outside of Pokemon, I opened up a One Piece card game box.
Oh, fun.
Sean.
Fun.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are pretty hype about it. The cards look cool.
It's the only problem is there's no local area around me playing just like Pokemon.
You have that problem for any card game though. There's no local for you at all.
Well, Magic, I think, has a local area around here, but I don't want to get into Magic. The deepest I want to get into Magic is opening a product every once in a while, and
you don't even need to
Arena a little bit.
I was about to say you don't even need to get it opening products now are they're so expensive.
I know,
it's dumb.
It's actually insane, especially secondary market. Yeah. But there's a lot of cool things in the secondary market, or maybe even through
the primary market.
Yeah, the primary market that you're going to want to get, and we will tell you all about those. But first, we got to get into the amazing 5-star review on the channel, and I titled it that way because, Sean, the title of this review is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. A little play there. This was from Brax Thurber, 5-star review. Amazing. I found this on a road trip a while ago, mostly just being bored, but it's so amazing. I love everything Pokemon, and I was excited to listen. Keep it up. Highly recommend. Well, Brax, thank you so much for the wonderful review. Perfect for road trips, traveling this holiday season. Just queue up couple episodes in the Metapod. That gets you about 4 or 5 hours at least. Well, we have, what is this, episode 124?
Oh gosh, yeah, it's crazy.
So that's easily about 124 hours. Somewhere around there.
I will say though, I can't imagine somebody going back and listening to the start and being like, "Wait, this meta is not what the meta is now. What are you talking about, Arceus, Dialga, Palkia?"
Yeah, well, what do you mean control deck? Oranguru, Pidgeotto. What does that mean? But excellent. Remember, if you want to leave a review, just go down to your podcasting platform, whatever that may be. On Apple, you can scroll down and hit the write a review section. Spotify, you can leave a 5-star rating. And if you're watching this on YouTube, which we appreciate you watching or listening, you can leave a nice comment. We read those every couple weeks as well. But Sean, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. And do you remember the World Championships from this past year?
Vaguely. Yes,
vaguely.
Yes.
Well,
Vaguely.
If you need a refresher on the World Championship decks from 2022, or maybe you're a collector and you really like the mementos of the cool decks that appeared and played, let me tell you that the World Championship decks are being revealed for March and releasing in March. So Pokemon TPCI does this annual thing, if you do not know. After the World Championships, they will take like the top 4 decks, I believe. Or I'm sorry, no. It's the Masters winners decks and the Masters quarterfinalists, a Masters quarterfinalist deck. And then they have, like a senior deck and a junior deck that they pick from and try to get a little bit of variety in there, all 4 different decks. They don't want like 4 Arceus decks or 4 Mew decks, that they release that are pretty much the same 60. So this year, releasing on March 3rd, these decks retail for $15 each. You will get the decks, every single card in this deck, and we'll talk more about those decks later because there is a little bit of nuance to it. You get Andre Scooball's ADP deck. This was the Masters winner, the world champion deck for Masters. It is not actually ADP for those of you that are shuddering in your boots as of right now. This is the Arceus deck that Andre piloted. Arceus V-Star with Flying Pikachu and Hisuian Decidueye, which A, Arceus, D, Decidueye, P, Pikachu VMAX ADP. And so it's I saw a lot of jokes when this was announced of like, man, ADP really making its impact on the World Championships, because guess what, Sean, the actual ADP Arceus Dialga Palkia never won.
No, it never even got a chance, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think it ever appeared in
a World Championship.
Well, maybe it did for the one that Henry Brand won.
Nope, it didn't.
No, it wasn't.
Because
it came out.
Cosmic Eclipse came out after Unified Minds.
Yes.
And so
was Unified Mind, or I'm sorry, was Cosmic Eclipse not a part of that world?
It was not. It's crazy.
That makes sense. I knew. Oh, because that was the first weekend that Unified Minds was released, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was first weekend that it was legal. Yeah.
That's right, because it was a gigantic format. I remember now. Anyways, moving on to the other decks, there's the Shape of Mew deck, Masters quarterfinalist Andre Chiasson. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, I'm sorry, but this is a Mew VMAX deck. You have Sebastian Lashmit's Cheryl again deck, the senior runner-up. That is a Urshifu VMAX deck.
Yep.
One of the cooler decks, again, senior runner-up. And then the juniors winner, Rikuto Ohashi, Ice Rider Palkia deck. So Ice Rider Palkia V-Star, that deck right there. So yeah, again, 4 decks that you can go out and buy. But Sean, what is the special things about these decks or these products?
I mean, the special things are, I believe, all of them are going to have their own unique card back. So they're not like typical Pokemon cards. Like, because the price is only $15, each deck has its own unique card back. It looks like each deck has literally its own unique card back. That's like, oh, the Mew deck is a purple and pink one, and the, the ADP deck, the Arceus V-Star deck is green and yellow, and then so on and so forth. So I think that's fairly new this time. I think in previous years, all of the World Championships decks shared the same.
Yes, I believe you're right on that.
Yeah.
And so if you're not familiar, the Pokeball on the back, that's one of the things that judges use to determine if a card is legal or not for official tournament play. These World Championship cards, you can't take them to a regional, an international championship or whatever. There are some locals, for the local $5 buy-in weekly tournament that they'll let you maybe use these if Tropical Beach is a really good example. Tropical Beach and like Gym Leader Challenge or expanded formats, places will let you use those cards because that card is so rare and, not bountiful, in places. There's not a lot of them out there. So if you can get your hands on a World Championship one for like, I think it's like $50 a single for a World Championship Tropical Beach, they'll let you do that. But the product also comes with a 22 World Championship booklet. I don't know exactly what that is. Maybe it has like some of the stats or something like meta or, you know, how it played out or whatever. I don't really know.
Maybe some information about the player who played this deck, I would imagine.
Maybe, yes, actually, maybe like an interview or something, a transcribed interview. Special 2022 World Championships pin, which it's the same pin for every deck. Very, very cool pin. It's the World Championships. It's got London on it, the Pikachu design as well, the year. Very, very cool. A 2022 World Championship coin, which is also very, very cool. A World Championship deck box for the 2022 London Championships. And just like the card backs, you know, it's the correlating color, the design that they have. A playmat and poster. I don't know if this playmat is like if it's like a paper playmat.
It's gotta be
a like fabric. I don't even know what this material is called.
I don't know. It can't be that nice, to be frank.
I was gonna say
it's a $15 product.
Them. Yeah, it's $15 product, and I've seen this box.
They're small,
like the same size as an ETB, almost. Maybe just a little bit bigger. Like it's not that big.
No.
And then you get a code card for the Pokemon trading card game live, which I would assume is primarily just like coin, deck box, sleeve.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll get the actual deck. Yeah, you don't get the actual cards with it. I think. I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure. I've never bought one before.
I feel like that's a pretty good call. Like you just don't get the cards because like that is very cheap for all those cards, even for like the Pokemon game live. I mean, what I will say, Jake, what I would love to see them do is if you're going to give them different card backs, I would love to see if this matches the rarity of all the players' decks because, you know, some people like to max rarity of their decks.
Oh.
I know it doesn't. I know it actually doesn't. But, like, I want somebody to win with a blinged out deck, and then Pokemon has to be like, well, I guess we got to print it exactly like what their deck was.
Exactly, yeah.
And so they're all, like, the gold cards and full arts, but they just have a different back, so it's fine.
Yeah, and if you're wondering, like, wait, Jake, Sean, if I can't play with these in an actual, like, tournament, like, why would I buy these? Well, a lot of people like these because, one, for collecting purposes, these are really, really cool, right? Like, this is a part of history. You know, you can go back with friends, family members, stuff like that, play retro formats, things like that. And like I was mentioning with Tropical Beaches as well, some of these cards may become like super, super hard to get. You know, if GLC, right, is a format that becomes uber popular and maybe an official format and you're trying to find your shady dealings in Talions, right? This will be a product that'll be able to get you one of those really easily and things like that. And then also for teaching, right?
Yep.
A lot of players, when they start out playing the game, they don't really have consistent decks. They may have like theme decks, and there's nothing wrong with playing those. But if you want to jump up in an upgrade for a deck that is super cheap and you can practice, you know, obviously a lot of your actual play itself has to do with whether you're, you know, a world champion or not. It's not just the cards that make you a world champion. It's your actual play. So you can use that practice and you can use that. And it makes a lot of these cards accessible to other people as well. Even if it's not an official way, it just helps a lot of people out. So whether you're a new player or a veteran player, you know, these are really cool products.
Yeah, I really love the idea of playing like retro format because like, you know, I think a lot of people, especially if you've been playing the game for a while or you might meet people, the ability to like kind of just go back and re-experience a time maybe when you didn't play. It's kind of an interesting thing. They're like little time capsules. So like I think that's, for me, that's what makes these particularly cool.
And so now, though, let's actually, Sean, talk about the Cyrus and Clara Premium Tournament collections.
Okay.
So if you did not see on Twitter, we quote tweeted this because this is really cool. They're actually going to be releasing, if you don't remember, I think we talked about the milk carton boxes, the Premium Tournament Collection box. We talked about those the other week of like, oh, when's the next one coming? Or whatever. Pokemon has announced that they will be releasing 2 Premium Tournament Collection milk boxes on March 24th. So same day, they're going to be releasing both of them. They will feature either Cyrus or Clara. So one of them being Cyrus and the other one being Clara, if you don't understand maybe what that means. It's the first time that 2 collections have released at once. Now, we know from Japan's promo that leaked and is in V-Star Universe, the boss's orders. If it's Cyrus, well, that's boom, that's the card right there. I believe we talked about it on the podcast when it was first leaked or something. And the Clara, we don't actually know what the Clara is yet, though, because Clara, whether that's V-Star Universe or whatever, has just had one art to it, but the Clara Premium Tournament Collection may use the Matchless Fighters Clara and Avery set that was released back in Japan on March 2021. And so if you see like the sleeves or the deck box that they used for that box, which is a really, really cool box. Love those boxes. They did it for Nessa at one point, and I bought up that box easy. That may be the art that they use for that. So really, really cool in my opinion, Sean. They're doing both of these at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, like we expected, like you said, the boss to come out. Clara, though, was I think a surprise to everybody because it's like research is a staple card, at least for like the current format. Marnie has been a staple card for a long time. Boss, staple card. I don't think people would have said that about Clara as much. And for those of you who don't know, Clara, put 2 Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, put 2 basic energy from your discard pile into your hand. Now, this has been a really crucial card for something like Charizard, Radiant Charizard.
Like Inteleon, does Lost Box play Clara? I don't think Lost Box has played Clara. It's more of the pre Lost Origins set and the Silver Tempest set. Have played a lot of Clara. Your Shady Dealings Inteleon 1-prizer decks or whatever. So Galarian Weezing.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting they chose Clara, but who knows? Yeah, maybe there's like a new art that hasn't been released, or it'd be interesting. But I think these are super cool. The Cyrus looks really good. In terms of all the boss's orders, you have
you have now Giovanni, you have Lysander, and now you have Cyrus.
So
which one's the best one?
Which one? What is what is there a full art Lysander?
Yeah, there's a full art Lysander.
Okay. I mean, probably the Cyrus is the best because it is the most colorful, in my opinion. And the framing on that is really cool. Lysander's probably a close second.
I don't know. Giovanni's my favorite.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I would say Giovanni's my favorite. How many researchers are there? There's Magnolia. There's Juniper. Isn't there another one?
Oak.
Yeah, Oak. Yeah, third one. Boom. Oak is the best one in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Juniper's really good.
Juniper's good, but Oak is just so OG, you know?
Oak is the best like regular art though, because he's drawing like outside of the art from Celebrations, if nobody knows what we're talking about. Very, very cool card. Highly recommend getting it. But anyways, again, if you do not know about these premium tournament collection boxes, they are releasing again on March 24th. You can get either of them for $39.99. They come with a full art promo card, which is kind of what we were talking about with the Cyrus art that had leaked and the mysterious Clara art. 3 holo trainer cards. Again, like I said the other week, I hope they do it like the Marnie ones and not like the Juniper ones, because the Juniper ones were bad. 7 booster packs, a deck box, which is a good deck box if you don't sleeve your deck, but if you sleeve your deck, just, I don't know, use it for something else. 65 card sleeves, which are the same kind of card sleeves that come in the ETBs as of right now. A large metallic coin, and I'm talking a big chonker metallic coin, like you could fit a plate of food on this coin. 2 condition markers, 6 damage counter dice, and a code card. Again, it's the same configuration as the last couple previous tournament collection boxes if you got either of those. But if you haven't before, these are cool. I like getting these.
Jake, now do we want to talk about a few things that are pretty special that are coming out that you will almost certainly, listeners, I'm sorry to tell you, not be able to get your hands on this?
I think they've already given this out, but this is still a really, really cool thing that TPCI has done for the for the league, I guess you could say, you know, for
Mm-hmm.
the people that make sure that Pokemon events are good and well run. TBCI has awarded 6 different professors, Pokemon professors, with unique promo plaques. So if you do not know, they've made some special contributions to the professor communities. The professors are it's a high level of
They're the judges.
you have to like
basically.
high level of judges and you know, that are kind of like the tip top. You know, you call a judge at a tournament, like at a regional, and then, you know, if there are any other issues, you go to the professor or something of the sort. Is that kind of how it goes? I've never been to a regional.
Well, I think all judges are professors.
Oh, are they all?
Yes, they're all. As far as I understand it,
Oh.
you go through the Pokemon Professor program.
Oh, okay.
So now there's, to your point though, there are different levels of professor, right? And then like basically there's different levels of judges. But these seem to be awarded to people who like their contribution goes beyond just simply judging events or hosting events, right? Like they're the people who, you know, it doesn't really say like exactly what the reason is. It just says, you know, basically went above and beyond. But one of the people they awarded this to was Will Post. So for those of you on Twitter or a part of Verbank or whatever, you've probably seen this person's name, Will Post. But I would fully agree with Pokemon that Will has done quite a lot in terms of community work. Yeah.
Exactly. And this plaque is very, very cool too, because it's got 9 slots essentially. The middle slot is the, you know, the person's name and the thank you, you know, contribution to the community. And around them are 9 full art, or I'm sorry, 8. I know how to count. 9 minus 1 is 9. 8 full art supporter cards circling around the person's name and thank you spot, and it's all of the Galar gym leaders. So I would, man, this would be up on my wall, given through generations of my family. Like, this is so cool.
This is really cool. And so there's only 6 of these plaques that exist, which means that the cards inside the plaque, there are only 6 of each of them. Now, they're full arts. The art is not unique, but they are stamped. They have a unique stamp on them. So
they do, yes.
Yeah.
So this in 10, I don't know if any of these people would ever sell those, but in 10 years, you could probably pay some college tuition with this, because these are a special set of cards, Sean.
I will say, the person that we've had on the pod, I think before, Stefan, or is it? Yeah, the one that collects all the full arts, right?
Yeah.
He is going to have Stefan. Yes, Stefan. He is going to have quite a difficult time finishing his collection.
He's trying to get every single supporter in every single language. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
This is going to be a tough one, Stefan. I'm sorry.
But, you know, I mean, it is what it is. But if you want some cool cards, some exclusive cards, if you remember, Sean, I don't even know how long ago it was that we talked about this. The 2022 illustration contest. Do you remember that?
I do. Because I know, again, that our friend Zach Roy entered some art into this.
And so a while ago, they announced like the winners, you know, and the different categories and stuff of these different arts. And the winners, the selected winners, would be featured on future Pokemon cards, as we were told. And so they've officially announced that they are on specific cards, a Bulbasaur, an Arcanine, and a Greninja, with a special illustration contest stamp. And Sean, you're actually going to be able to get these cards if you want to. So we wanted to talk about this because in the show description, the show notes, YouTube description, whatever, there's going to be a link to where you can actually submit your information to the Pokemon Center to get a one-time use code. The only way you are going to be able to get these cards is if they give you one of these one-time use codes, or if somebody sells you their one-time, whatever. You have to have the one-time use code to get these cards, at least when they release.
Yep.
And so how it's going to work is you'll have to buy something at the PokemonCenter.com. It's a single pack that contains the 3 cards inside of it, and you got to buy $30 or more, at least $30 USD or more before taxes in order to, get this free extra pack alongside of it. The Pokemon Center at the time of this recording will send codes out within 16 weeks.
Oof.
So what
months.
is this? 124. So at episode 140, check back with us and I'll tell you if I got a code or not. Yeah,
okay.
To tell you if I got a code. Once you get the codes, it'll expire on September 30th, 2023. So you have a long time to do this. They did this out in Japan, so it's not really a surprise that they're doing the same thing with this. It's kind of the same process with the special delivery Charizard, if you tried to get a hold of that. And I also saw, I think on Twitter, it doesn't say in the PokeBeach article, if you return the stuff that you buy, because you want to just get the pack, you buy something from the website to get the threshold, get the pack, return the items that you bought that are not the pack. I believe there's an extra $8 fee or something like that, USD, that you have to pay in order to return it. I think I saw that somewhere. Don't confirm or don't take that to heart. I think that if you want this, you should buy something cool because there's cool things on. You can get like 2 or 3 of the World Championship decks.
You could just buy an ATB, buy Pokemon packs, buy whatever.
Just do something with like buy something cool
plushie
for the holidays or the Sitting Cutie plushies are phenomenal. But again, if you want to submit your information, so then maybe in 16 weeks you will get out a code from the Pokemon Center. Go check out our show notes. Go check out the description. I'll have the link in there for you all. But maybe you don't want one of those. Maybe you want to get something at your local leagues. Sean, we talked about, this was a while ago, that they were going to start doing prize packs.
Yeah.
Sean, and now they're out. Series 1.
This is really cool. So these prize packs, for those of you who maybe didn't listen to that episode or are not like actively on Twitter too much,
like Sean.
So these prize packs are given out to people who go to their local leagues. They used to give out like very specific cards, like you'd go, there'd be a participation card, and then everyone would get that card, right? But these are replacing that. Each pack has 6 cards in it. And I think I think every store will probably have a different policy for how they give them out, but most likely, hopefully your store gives at least 1 prize pack to everybody for participating and additional prize packs to like people who win and get second and third or whatever. But the set that is going out right now is encompassing all of the first year of Sword and Shield. So basically everything that would be D block. Now, there might be some cards that are technically legal later because they were reprinted, but all cards from Sword and Shield base set through Evolving Skies. There's 200 reprinted cards in here, and I feel like a lot of the cards they chose seem to have some playability, right? It's not just bulk. So
yes, so I mean, we have the set list in here, and there's a ton of different Pokemon in there, including the Shady Dealings in Teleon. You got Rare Candy. You get the energies that have them on it as well. But there's a bunch of other cool gray cards, 200 cards. Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX is in here, which we just talked about in one of the World Championship decks, Sean. It won the Junior World Championships. Got a bunch of other stuff like Ice Rider, Calyrex VMAX, which was super popular. You get Charizard cards, always cool. I wonder how much those will cost.
The Charizard VMAX, like I'm going to click this. Okay, it's just a random Charizard VMAX that it's showing me, and I've lost it. Hold on. will
But
come
I
back.
mean, Charizard VMAX is part of that, along with Charizard V from Darkness Ablaze as well, and then the Charizard Holo that's a part of Vivid Voltage as well, which are some really cool cards. And again, these will have the Play Pokemon stamp on it, so that's super sick. You know,
Yeah.
Eternatus VMAX is in here, Zacian V in here, and a bunch of other trainers as well. You know, I see Fog Crystal in here, Crushing Hammer. Sean, boss's orders. This is the boss's orders from Shining Fates, though, so it's specifically
Oh, cool.
the Lysander card. But you know, like Sean was saying, and as I keep mentioning, you know, it's just a bunch of like actually really impactful cards. So you can like slide these in your deck pretty much right away for the most part on these.
Yeah, I will also say there are some cards here that have a hollow version that you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah.
So like Pumpkaboo, which is a really good card for getting rid of stadiums in certain decks. Now you can get a hollow that's not a reverse hollow Pumpkaboo. The energy.
Same with like rare, or I'm sorry, Path to the Peak.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Path to the Peak has
the gold version,
the gold stadium, but you know what I mean. And like for the energies as well, you know, they have a different sort of reverse hollow pattern than what they were previously. And in my opinion, these look way better because it's not like a track or something like that. But it looks like you get an energy in every single pack. Not always a hollow energy, though. It looks like if you get a hollow energy, it's another one of your 6 cards. So you're always going to get a basic stamped energy, but then you could also get a hollow basic stamped energy alongside of it, which I think is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think what a lot of people who maybe are newer to the game, like playing the game, hollow energy are weirdly like pretty coveted in the game. Like,
I love hollow energies.
Yeah, people love gold energy, but like, especially hollow stamped energy like this. I know we're making the switch over to silver border, but assuming that yellow border cards are going to remain legal, I think these might be some of the, like, you know, energies that people want to collect and use in their decks because they look really good. These hollow energies, they look really clean. They have a cool stamp on it. The hollow version is going to be much harder to get than like the foil energies you find in specialty sets. So I could see these energy actually being like, you know, if you like to flex, if you like to bling out your deck.
You like to bling out, but you can't afford the gold, you know. This is a really cool way to bling out, in my opinion. It brings a lot of shine. It's really cool. And I really like these promo packs. I think they're done well. Again, like Sean said, it depends on how stores distribute these packs. But I think these prize packs are well put together. I mean, a great variety of cards, but also like pretty much all cards that are playable at least one time or another, you know, have some functionality in it. So hopefully, you know, you're able to get some through your local league play, as you should be playing in your local league. Yeah, because it's very nice.
Well, Jake, I think that does it for all the card news. There was a lot this week because, like, I think last week it was like all the news of like the changes to and this is like here's a bunch of products. And I think we should probably talk about Arlington.
Arlington Regionals happened. I believe it was the biggest regional of all time. 1,224 players. Lots of players. And the one who won it all, Connor Fenton, went undefeated, I believe, in the entire event. Sean.
Oof.
Went undefeated, playing Lugia V-Star. So this is Lugia V-Star, the newest iteration. And since we've talked about it less, I think we kind of avoided talking about Lugia a lot in the when we had like the 3 regionals or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, Lugia V-Star came in and dominated. There were more spots in the top 8 that we may talk about if there are some differences. But Lugia V-Star, you know, you got your 3/3 line of Lugia. You got your 4 Archeops, right? Because that is the main engine of the deck. But there's a little couple things in here that can be moved around, changed around to make this deck really cool and unique. First of all, you got the Oranguru. Sean, Oranguru is a really, really cool card because of Primate Wisdom from the Sword and Shield base set. You may remember this card. It is a long-time card in the game. There's a lot of times where you get a bunch of energies in your hand with this deck. And since Archeops through Primal Turbo, its ability pulls special energies from the deck, it's really nice for Oranguru to just slide one from your hand back in your deck so then your Archeops can go after it. But Sean, we keep talking about, Primal Turbo, Archeops, shooting them to some Pokemon. What are some Pokemon that you like in this deck, besides maybe Lugia, that Connor Fitton utilized in his matches?
Well, I think a couple of cards. I'm trying to think of like the other Lugia decks before all the counters came out, and and then Lugia did well again. And I'm trying to how is this different, right? I wonder if 2 Lumineon V, if that really made a huge difference. Maybe.
I think Lumineon V is, very important. And we've seen such a spike in Lumineon V for other decks. One that got second place that we're actually going to talk about here soon. But just getting that first turn supporter is always important, and getting that supporter for whatever you may need. Having multiple Serenas in here, multiple research to be able to discard Archeops, things like that, and just churn through your deck and continue drawing. And it works out.
And I will say too, Lumineon, it's very useful as an attacker as well, because the 120 damage, it's not a ton, but what that 120 damage allows you to do though is then shuffle that Lumineon back into your deck. So not only are you putting energy back into your deck for future Primal Turbos, you're also getting a 2-prizer off of your, bench, and probably knocking out one of your opponent's single prize Pokemon in the process. So also, being able to utilize that Lumineon V again for its ability to grab Serena, Boss's Orders, Marnie, something like that. And there's a couple different reasons that you actually attack with Lumineon V in these decks. One of them being the next Pokemon that we're going to talk about in this deck, to knock out a Charizard, Radiant Charizard. It's one of the main attackers in here, if you do not know, with that Excited Heart ability, doing 250 damage. And when you can attach, up to 4 special energies in one turn, you can use this Charizard pretty much any time in the game, which is something that we haven't seen a lot from Radiant Charizard until Lugia V-Star. Yeah, I think maybe the way that this deck has evolved since the original iteration, I think originally Lugia V-Star was like, yes, my main setup and attacker is Lugia, right? Like you get the Lugia, you get the Archeops, you put all the energy on your Lugia as you attack with it. I think now it's much more situational. Like Lugia may only attack once or twice in a game, and instead you'll have follow-ups with attacks from an Yveltal Amazing Rare, which automatically knocks out a Pokemon. So if it's something big, doesn't matter. Or like you said, Radiant Charizard, a single prizer that can do a ton of damage. You have Amazing Rare Raikou, right? Which can do 120 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, the active and something on the bench. You can even have Stoutland, which will allow you to take an extra prize if it knocks it out, right? Or is it 2 extra prizes? 1. I think it's 1.
It is 1. Yeah, one more. Greedent, I believe, is 2. Yeah.
But all of those things combined are kind of okay, so really, I think it's important to almost see Lugia V-Star the same way that people view Arceus V-Star, which is can it attack? Yes. Its attack is not bad, but primarily it's a setup Pokemon. You're setting up your Archeops, you're setting up the ability to get energy onto the field out of nowhere. And then really the way that you win in these matches is not by going forward with 2 prizers, but instead by actually attacking throughout the game with a couple of 1-prizers that make the math really awkward for your opponent.
Yeah, and especially, Lugia V-Star as well is just kind of like the heaviest hitter per se, because of the powerful energies and stuff like that. It is the biggest hitter out of all the Pokemon in this deck, with the base starting at 220. So, and like Sean was saying, for, decks like Lost Box, maybe, you just knock them out with the Stoutland, take extra prizes, shorten up the game. Raikou spread damage. right? Especially also with Lugia V-Star as well, because a choice belt on an amazing rare Raikou knocks out a Lugia, does 300 damage
Yep.
after weakness. And
Knocks
a
out a
lot of
Palkia
people,
too.
yeah, a lot of people were taking out their Dunsparces. So the
Yep.
mirror match, you could go in with the Raikou. And even if, you know, you were also facing the mirror match that kind of had this same concept of, you know, no Dunsparce, but you had a lot of little attackers, you know, like Archeops, Yivata. I also, Archeops did a lot of attacking as well.
Yeah.
I saw in a bunch of games. So being able to just knock out a bunch of small Pokemon as well, it's so cool. I mean, this deck is really dominant, which after a while it's like, okay, you know, like it's getting kind of old how dominant it is. But like for the way that it's evolved the last couple weeks has kind of been kind of cool in how it's sort of become more flexible, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what I agree with you. It's extremely good. And
Yeah.
but I think it's good in a way that like it feels interesting good because you're using lots of different Pokemon. Like, to be frank, I'm happy to see 2 amazing rares being used in one deck. We always thought those were cool cards, but we were like, the energy is so annoying. Like, who's gonna play these?
Yeah, like what was the card when Vivid Voltage was first released that was actually like playable in Amazing Rares?
I think
it was
Rare
like Jirachi.
Oh yeah, the Jirachi
Yeah, like
actually had an
Jirachi was the
ability you
best
could
one.
use, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh okay.
And it sort of died out. So seeing these Amazing Rares is again very, very cool.
Yeah. So overall, you know, going back to the actual lineup, you'll see, what is that? 5 out of the 8 top 8
Yep.
is Lugia.
5 out of top 8 Lugia. So again, very, very dominant. But there was a deck that beat out, you know, 4 of the 5 top ones. It's that second place finisher from Alex Kreckler. It is a Vikavolt V. I don't think anybody had this deck on their radar. I think we've talked about a Vikavolt V deck the other week, Vikavolt Melanie, but this one was a little bit different, Sean. It was still using the Melanie Vikavolt, but there were a couple other cool cards in here, in my opinion. One of them being for Sealstone. I've seen that a lot in Mew VMAX, you know, basically acts as a V-Star power, be able to grab whatever card you want. You know, very, very helpful. This deck also has a Ditto V, Sean, inside of it, which I think is Ditto V's best showing out of, you know, all the regionals. If you do not remember what Ditto V did from Shining Fates, once during your turn, you may choose a basic Pokemon V from your discard pile and switch it with this Pokemon. Any attached cards, damage counters, special conditions, turns in play, and any other effects remain on the new Pokemon. And Sean, let me tell you, this player played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other V Pokemon in here. Now, you may not transform into the Crobat V.
Can you imagine?
I could see a world, though, where you actually transform into a Lumineon V, because we talked about the Charizard.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So I could see a world where that may happen. But anyways, there are a lot of different options that you can do to provide a lot of consistency, you know, especially if one of your Vikavolts gets prized, you know, you can kind of chain the Vikavolts, and especially with a Lumineon in the deck, you are able to find turn 1 Melanie a lot. You know, you're going second with this deck, you attach an energy to the Vikavolt, you go ahead and you Melanie onto it, boom, you're paralyzing bolting, you're item locking. 90% of decks are not ready to be item locked.
Yep. I mean, this is like, it's an interesting, like, it's not really control, I would say. It's like semi-control, but it's control mixed with counterbox. That's really what this deck is. It's a 2 prize-based counterbox.
It like forces you to slow the game down. And let me tell you, Sean, in the Lugia matchup, our favorite, or at least my favorite V-Star, is in this deck too. Aerodactyl V-Star in the second place list with that V-Star power. Ancient Star. Until this Pokemon leaves play, it gains an ability that has the effect your opponent's Pokemon V in play, except for Aerodactyl V-Star, have no abilities.
Yep. So you basically, if you go first and you can get Aerodactyl V down against Lugia, you know that they can't do anything, right? Like they can't attack turn one with an Aerodactyl with a Lugia V deck. Not
Yep.
possible. So they're just sat there like, well, I think I know what's happening. And then you get your Aerodactyl. One attachment in the active. Can't use abilities. How are you going to knock this Aerodactyl V-Star out if you can't get enough energy on?
Lugia has to then manually attach
Yup.
with, which they may have to do that item locked, which is a little bit tougher than you may think. Or, I mean, if your Aerodactyl's right there, you could just like Melanie to it, attach the next turn, and you could just Lost Dive 240.
Yeah.
It takes 2 hits to knock out because I believe the Lugia is resistant to fighting, but that's okay because you're going to 2-shot it, and you know what? You're probably winning the game if they can't get Volts out.
Yeah.
But just such a cool deck, in my opinion. There's also Drapion in here.
Yep.
Sean, Drapion counter to Mew. Raikou in here. Very, very cool. Helps out maybe with the Palkia decks, right? You can Paralyzing Bolt for a little bit, and then you can Raikou V, the Lightning Rondo attack, because that deck fills up its bench real fast. Or maybe even Lugia, right? You can hit into a Lugia. Maybe you were going second in the matchup, couldn't get your Ancient Star V-Star off to just completely knock him out. So you go in with Vikavolt V and Raikou V. We talked about the Zapdos the other week. That Zapdos is in there too. Boost a little bit of 10 damage. Pretty much used, I feel like, at least when I was watching Alex play, used in pretty much all situations, right? Just because, especially with the extra damage to Paralyzing Bolt, right? It's just, I mean, it just helps out. Helps out your math a little bit more, especially against the Reggie deck, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Because you have Galarian Zigzagoon in here as well, you know, a lot of the Reggies have 130, and 50 plus 10 is 60, right, for your Zapdos and Vikavolt. And so then that Zigzagoon can help you get up there to 130.
That is a very good point. Yeah, so overall, this is a cool deck. You know, it's definitely, it's a good counter box to a lot of the big decks in the meta. I'm surprised it only got second given how much Lugia was at the top. I did not watch.
Well, I mean, this was, one of the decks that's like, this is an interesting build to it. And so like, I feel like a lot of people probably strayed away from this because it's, maybe they weren't building the most consistent versions, or they just like weren't as comfortable. But you know, if you just win your first couple rounds and you're sitting at the top tables, right, and you're facing all those big time meta decks, like, and you're a counter to those meta decks, you're gonna do awesome. It's just one of those like secret, you know, closed deck list format decks that are like, man, that was really cool to see.
Yeah. So, Jake, you mentioned it briefly, but do you wanna talk about, you know, Reggies? I know you're a big Reggies fan.
I do enjoy the Reggies because I think Reggies is a cool deck to watch, and also very cheap. I think when we talked about budget decks, you know, Capture Energy was the most expensive card in this deck or something like that. I don't know if that still holds true, but this is the top 8 list of Regigigas, the Reggie deck by Christian Fotnot from Denmark. Played this deck, and this is a little bit, I would say, riskier of a Reggie deck, but it ended up working out for him for the most part. They've got 3 Regigigas in this list. Regigigas kind of being the main engine of it. You know, you needed to be able to, you know, power up all those Pokemon every single turn. So it makes sense as to why you have 3 of them. But if you have 3 of them, that means you got to cut something, Sean. And the cut in here was 1 Registeel. They only had 1 Registeel in this deck, which I believe bit them in the butt in the top 8.
Oh, did it get prized or?
There was a round where this player prized a Registeel, a Regieleki, and I think like a Regirock.
Oh God!
In one game, and so you know, Hisui and Heavy Ball, great card, but it only allows you to grab one at a time. So especially, I think this was in the match with Alex, the item lock, paralyzing bolt.
Oh,
And
that's rough.
you know, once they start paralyzing bolting you, you can't use the Hisuian heavy ball. So he had to manually attach to Reggie's, take knockouts, find the heavy ball, or stop item lock, or find Registeel. And I believe Christian lost to Alex in the round that he bounced out of the top 8, but still very, very cool. I mean, that's probably a tough matchup though to go into, because like item lock, you also can't ordinary rod, right? Clara's not in these decks anymore. We talked about Clara earlier, and so that kind of hurts a lot. So very, very cool. But I mean, they played the matchup as best as they could. I didn't see any like super outrageous things.
No, I mean, sometimes that's just the reality, right? Like, oh, you know, I'm playing against item lock. There's only one of them in the top 8. I got paired up against them. Oh, well. Because
just unlucky.
Right. It's just a little unlucky. And I will say, like, strategies like this are, the benefit is it's all single prizer. So there's a lot of flexibility in, like, hey, if things don't go perfectly to start the game, you usually can come back from it because it takes your opponent so long to win. However, the strategy itself is pretty fragile, right? Because, like, to your point, you only have one Registeel. So if it's prized, and say your Hisuian heavy ball is also prized, you know, like, pack it up, go home. You know,
yeah, just get out of here.
Right. I think another thing that, you know, it's interesting for this, for Lost Box decks, for Radiant Charizard decks, even counter decks that are using Ditto V. I could even see like Lost City, the stadium that lost zones Pokemon when they get knocked out.
Like what Mew plays, Mew VMAX.
Exactly.
You know, starting to play some Lost Cities.
Yep. And stuff like that can be really scary for decks that, like, there's very little margin for error in the strategy. So, but, you know, I would say, like, the situations in which that really comes to bite you in the butt are far fewer than the situations where it works, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it worked out for Christian. So, and Christian probably tested way more with this deck than we did. But Reggie, I mean, it's kind of interesting, and I understand why Registeel was the one that went down to 1. Because if you think about it, Reggie's is pretty much like a counter deck, in a sense. You know, you have your normal Pokemon that have a fighting weakness. You know, Reggie Rock comes in, clobbers them, or electric Pokemon that come in, Reggie clobbers them. You have your Regice, you know, not only for fire Pokemon, but for Pokemon maybe like Duraludon that only have Pokemon Vs in the deck. Regice instantly stops them. You know, you've got sort of your spread decks, which with Regielekis in there, your Mew VMAX, your Duraludon VMAX. You've got your Regigigas, you know, in there with Gigaton Break, and, you know, Dragon Sword Regidrago with that ability is just real good, and 160 is super great because you can two-shot anything at that point. So Registeel is kind of in this weird place where, like, it's really just there to fulfill ancient wisdom.
Yep. Like, they didn't ever print a really that good Registeel.
And I mean, like, especially when Jake Gearhart and a couple other people popularized the, you know, Palkia kind of paralyzed deck, right? That kind of moved away from Palkia Ice Rider that we saw at the World Championships. We talked about that deck earlier. And so, you know, I don't think there's anything in the format that's super popular right now that has a metal weakness. So
no, not at all.
And especially when things don't have, you know, especially when some things have a big retreat cost, because not a lot of people are using attackers with air balloon and stuff. It's primarily like switch cart or something like that. Heavy slam, which if you do not know is Registeel's attack, it just does less and less damage. So, but a cute card that's in here, Sean, Yellhorn.
Oh yeah, that is clever.
There's a one of Yellhorn in here to, you know, maybe stall some things out. You got a Lugia that's just whomping your Pokemon. You could say, hey, hit through the confusion or something. Or a Duraludon, right? A lone Duraludon on the field. You say, okay, hit me through confusion. And it gives you a little bit more time, you know, to set up, things like that. Mewtwo V Union, you know, control. If it was Mewtwo v Union, if you want to heal, all right, you got to flip for it. You know, kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, the Mewtwo v Union is an interesting reason for the yell horn, right? Because, like, to your point, if you want to try to heal and you can't, and then I get another knockout on that, then we're good. That's actually a really clever use of the yell horn. I don't know if that's why it's in the deck, but I like that thought, Jake.
I will say, just kind of scrolling through, so I don't know if this is fact or not, but it's looking like it. Out of the top 100, I do not see a Mewtwo.
No control.
So not really any of that. Kind of moved away from that. I think people started figuring it out. I will say, though, Sean.
Yeah?
Big shout out to Frank Persick, guest on the Metapod podcast at one point. 33rd playing Galarian Weezing Eternatus VMAX.
Oh, very nice.
A little spicy in there.
Yeah. Also, I'm just going to give a shout out to Tony Vong. Just a local friend. Day one, I was like watching the stream, and I was just watching the stream, and I see like they like list the top players, and it's after the 6th round. And it's like, oh, number 1 is someone, and number 2, Tony Vong, 6-0, and I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know Tony was in Arlington. So like we have like a little group chat of our Pokemon pals from like 4 years ago, and I just like I texted her, I'm like, Tony, you're doing really well in Arlington. I saw your name up there, so I was like,
I don't jinx you.
Yeah. So he ended up getting 92nd, which is amazing out of like 1,200 players. So just a little shout out there.
Shout out to him. Lugia was the most popular deck, at least in the day 2 on the Limitless page. It 38% about of the meta share.
That's so many.
I think it was slightly over 30% in day 1.
That's insane.
Again, that's why Vikavolt did so well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much in there. Lost Box, at least in this day 2 part, 21 decks, 16% of the meta share. Reggie's at 19 with just under 15%. So very, very cool. Shout out to the couple Zoro Box players that played, 2 of them in day 2.
I will say, Jake, if you like the idea of Zoro Box, I think you're going to really love Scarlet and Violet era.
Ooh.
Because did you know, and this is just a little thing, before I logged off of Twitter, I did see somebody post this. Zoroark says that you can switch it with a stage 1 Pokemon on your discard, right?
That's one of the EXs, isn't it?
And EXs are not, like Vs and VMAXs and all that, they're not stage 1. They're called VMAX or V-Star. But EXs are called stage 1.
Does Zoroark specifically say with a rule box? Because
nope.
the EX Pokemon, no?
It just says stage 1 because it was printed before they knew they were going to go back to that style of like...
Interesting.
Yeah, so Zoro can go grab you your stage 1 EXs, which I'm just saying... You might see something like that in the Scarlet and Violet era.
That could be really cool. I will say I just saw this in here. 60-second Kyle Van Orsdell. If you listen to this podcast, I'm sorry. I missed you with your Mewtwo control at first. So there was at least one in day 2 in there. So just wanted to correct that before anybody tweeted at us and told us that we were wrong. But anyways, Sean, is that all that you got for this podcast episode today?
Yeah, that's all we got today.
That's all we got. Yeah. I might play, I did, because I'm going home for Christmas break, because college athletics, you know, is Christmas break, holidays, finals are over, things like that. Nothing until after the new year. There's a One Piece TCG locals that I might actually go play.
Okay.
I'm gonna have a terrible deck, and I'm probably gonna go like 0-3 or whatever. But I just want to play One Piece. I don't know. I want to learn how to play. I downloaded the app, played it. Free app if you're interested in learning. You know, you're a One Piece fan like me. But
very nice.
Yeah, that's all I got of this podcast.
Okay. Well, good luck at your potential One Piece tournament, Jake, and we'll see all y'all.
If I find the One Piece, I'll mention it on the podcast that revolves around the evolving meta.